What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Darrick McGhee, and I hope you all are doing well. Listen, I normally don't do this, but today I feel compelled to record this, so I'm doing that. A lot is being said about the recent vote for the new president-elect at FAMU, Mrs. Marva Johnson. And let me start out by saying I don't personally know Marva Johnson. Some of you know that I am blessed to be in several lanes. One is I am a government consultant, or better known as a lobbyist. And so I see Mrs. Johnson in the halls of the Capitol periodically. When we see each other. There are some pleasantries. We say hi to each other and we keep it moving. We don't operate in the same world. We have several mutual colleagues and friends that have tried over the years to connect us, but we don't know each other like that. And so everything that I'm saying is less about her and more about a bigger picture. So I want to start out in that regard. I love FAMU, right? And I believe that the Lord used FAMU to play a critical role in making me to the man that I am. Some of you may not know this. I was born in Peoria, Illinois, and then grew up in Los Angeles, California. So in 1996, after applying to every HBCU and several University of California schools and getting into every school I wanted to get in, save one. I really wanted to go to Morehouse. I wanted to go to Morehouse because Dr. King went to Morehouse, and I visited Morehouse campus the summer between my sophomore and junior year in high school. And so I wanted to go to Morehouse. My cousin Carla was living in Atlanta, so I had at least one familial member in Atlanta. I never got into Morehouse. But the first HBCU to accept me was FAMU. I had a chance to meet Dr. Humphreys at a 100 Black Men event. I was student body president my senior year in high school back at Grover Cleveland Magnet High School in Reseda, California. I met Dr. Humphreys, and that encounter was life changing. I set out to move from Los Angeles across the country to Tallahassee. No familiarity with this area, no family, no friends, no classmates, nothing. Only thing I knew about Tallahassee was my freshman year in high school, which happened to be my brother's senior year in high school. Florida State won the national championship under then Heisman Trophy winner Charlie Ward. That's all I knew about Florida State. So when I moved here with three things: $200 in cash, five suitcases, and an acceptance letter from FAMU. That's all I had. I stayed in Patty Foot 311A. My roommate Rashad Webb and I hit it off instantly. Fun fact: the first person I met on FAMU's campus is now Congressman Byron Donalds. That's a different conversation. But many of us were first generation to go to school, right? And so as we sat on the dorm steps of Patty Foot, or we played spades in the pavilion, we were just hoping to be able to do things that would change our lives and change the trajectory of our families' lives, right? We weren't engaging in who was the president and who was the provost and who was the board of regents at the time. None of that stuff mattered to us. We were just young 17, 18, somewhere 19-year-old freshmen trying to make better. I don't come from money. It didn't come from money. And so I knew I had to maximize this opportunity. I wasn't getting money put in my account every Friday. Didn't even have an account, right? I wasn't wearing the latest shoes that came out every Friday. No, I was one of those college students that was in the financial aid line only to get to the front and be told that it was not the day for my alphabet. I was a young man in the financial aid line who would be in line to get to the front and be asked for my social security number, only to be met sometimes by a mean person. I was that person in the financial aid line who would get to the front and didn't know what they were doing because I was first generation. My life was impacted by people like Miss Inge, who took me behind those sacred doors and sat down with me and helped me not to lose heart, but also connected me with people in housing and things of that nature. I was that college student that literally, were it not for God putting people in my path at the right time, my collegiate journey would have ended before it even began. So I will always have an honor, respect, and even a debt to FAMU. I met my wife at FAMU. My wife is, when I tell you, bleed orange and green, the entirety of her family went to FAMU High. I shouldn't say her mother went to FAMU High. Her father went to FAMU High. She and her sister went to FAMU High. Right? Y'all know it as DRS now. It was FAMU High back then. My wife has an undergrad and at grad degree at FAMU. I got my degree from FAMU. Right? I am class of 2000. Right? I'm a political science degree holder and a religion as well. Right? I love FAMU. I was at FAMU 1996 to 2000. So I was there when we were ranked number one by Princeton Review College of the Year. I was there. I hold fast to that pride, right? I'm a part of the Humphreys legacy of his presidency, right? You can't get into a FAMU argument with me and not hear my passion. Even as I began to advance in my career, people know how I operate with FAMU. I walk in a room with FAMU pride. I don't care where you got your degree from. Your degree is going to pale in comparison to a FAMU graduate. I've always held that pride, that arrogance, but also that confidence. So let's fast forward to where we are now. And the reality of today, as I mentioned to you, my mother-in-law holds multiple degrees from FAMU. My mother-in-law was born in Foot Hillier, and then she later worked 41 years in the same building she was born in, working for admissions, right? My mother-in-law retired from FAMU. My sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, my wife, myself, we all got degrees from FAMU. My wife's family goes back to FAM college days, right? So I'm not speaking loosely about my love and my zeal for FAMU. Right now, my wife and I have a son. Our son just finished his freshman year at FAMU. He is a cybersecurity major. He's on the football team. Shameless plug, number 54, freshman linebacker Darrick McGhee Jr. Back to the point at hand, right? So I'm not speaking as somebody who just lives in Tallahassee, right? I love FAMU, right? I'm proud of FAMU. I'm a season ticket holder at FAMU. I contribute to my university, right? My family contributes to our university. Make that very, very clear. So as I'm talking today, I'm talking as an alum, but also as a parent of a current student. I understand the emotion. I understand the rallies. I understand the outcry. I don't agree with it. Let me tell you why I don't agree with it. Because the reality of it all, ladies and gentlemen, is this: you're going to fail in trying to convince me that the appointment of Marva Johnson on an 8-4 vote means the ending of FAMU as we know it. To me, that is foolish talk. I understand people have their right to protest, they have their right to be emotional, have their right to freedom of speech. I agree with all that. But the fear mongering is where I have a problem. FAMU's rich history goes back too far. You don't withstand from October 3rd, 1887 to the current and be told that the appointment of one person as president now means the ending of that many years of a legacy. Let's not buy into that rhetoric. Let's not buy into the rhetoric at all. Mrs. Johnson deserves the right to at least get started, put a team in place, and try to implement what she said she wanted to bring to the table. I believe that. I believe that she has that right. Right. I don't know enough about her. We're not in close quarters like that for me to get on here and yell from the rooftop about how amazing she is. But I will say this: I believe that President John Thrasher, former FSU president, crawled so that others could walk. What do you mean by that? I remember when FSU grads and FSU students went ballistic over the thought of John Thrasher being president of FSU. People protested. They had petitions going on. People went to the papers and social media and all those things of how horrible it was. And guess what? You fast forward years later when he retired, so many of them same people cried. They did not want to see him go because he had won them over. No, he did not have an academic background that qualified him for being president. You know what he did have? He had charisma. He had the ability to go raise money and sell Florida State and convince businesses and dormant donors to come back to life and contribute to university. All the things that we knew as a lobbyist who had lobbied him as a legislator, we knew he could do. He eventually did that, and FSU was the better for it. When I say that he called for others to walk, I understand people have an opinion about, presidential appointments at universities and things of that nature under the Governor DeSantis administration. That's not unusual practice, ladies and gentlemen. That's not unusual, right? It's not unusual, right? It's not unusual for governors to appoint allies to boards and commissions. That's not unusual. That dated back even when the Democrats occupied the governor's mansion or the Democrats ran the House and Senate. It's not unusual. I understand that because in the world of social media, we want to talk about it and put it on X and things of that nature and yell and scream, but it's not unusual. I've done 24 years in local and state politics between public sector and private sector combined, 24 years. I know how appointments work. I know how governors do their appointments. I have no objection to how they do them because I understand what happens when elections take place. It is what it is. But what it is not, you cannot convince me that Mrs. Johnson becoming the president elect of my beloved FAMU means that this is the beginning of the end of FAMU as we know it. It's not true. It's absolutely not true. FAMU withstood times of high slavery. FAMU withstood the times when they had white only bathrooms and white only water fountains, when only whites could drink, eat, or drink at the counters. We FAMU withstood marches and rallies and all those things that our foreparents endured. They withstood all that, and FAMU still stands today. So you cannot tell me that one person has the single authority to undo that amount of legacy, nor can you convince me that that is Mrs. Johnson's intention. There are so many people saying so many things, and yet most of these things are emotional assumptions, accusations, and lies with no foundational facts to it. Interestingly, black people being Republican is not a new age situation. Black people being Republicans, for the most part, you can go back to Lincoln presidency. Some of you can argue before that. I'm not here to make that argument. My point of the matter is that you can be black and be conservative. You can be black and be liberal. You can be black and be MAGA. You can be black and be progressive. It is okay. It's a part of what it is. But what is not wise, when I read comments of people saying because of what happened yesterday, fam, you can can no longer expect me to give to the university. That's where the problem for me lies in that you would allow the appointment of one person to make you discontinue giving. Listen, I pastor a local church and I'm happy to pastor. The Lord trusted me to plant a church. He gave me a vision. August will make 15 years that vision has been in reality. I've been in church my entire life. I know a lot about the black church. One thing I know about the black church in some black churches is the loudest ones usually are the ones giving the least toward the vision. And yesterday, when it was mentioned by the vice chair of the board of trustees, Mr. Gibbons, that 6% of the FAMU faculty actually contributes to university, I don't know if that's a fact or not, but he gave it yesterday. That's eye-opening. That's absolutely eye-opening. And I want to say this to you all. Much as I love my FAMU, I love my FAMU more now because my son goes there, and I want my son when he graduates between 2027 and 28 to be able to have a degree that he looks back on with pride. My son could honestly care less about who actually signs his degree. My degree was signed by Humphreys. My wife's undergrad degree was signed by Humphreys. Her graduation for undergrad was Humphreys' last graduation. Her master's was signed by Gaines. My son's degree is going to be signed more likely by President Marva Johnson. But guess what's most important? It's not about who signed the degree. It's about at the top of that degree, it says Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. That's where the pride comes from. And I know that FAMU world, we owe it better to the legacy of our university and the rich soil that we're built on to not taint the name of FAMU with accusations and assumptions that one person has a plan or the intention to undo that rich history. Now, let me hit you with some things that people don't want to deal with. It is true. An article came out last year. The Board of Governors made a big issue about it. Governor, Board of Governor member Alan Levine talked about it greatly. FAMU's pharmacy school and nursing school and law school has not been successfully having those students who graduated with those degrees pass those boards, right? And he went ballistic. And you can say what you want to say about Alan Levine. I know Alan Levine most of my career, right? Dating back to the Jeb Bush administration. We've had interactions, we've had exchanges, all being pleasant. I don't view him as being some racist white man who hates FAMU. I think just the opposite. I think he actually has a real desire to help FAMU be successful. Here's the problem, though. For some, we assume that when a white male or female intentionally wants to be helpful to our university, they have ulterior motives. And truth be told, change cannot occur until you actually expose where the leak is coming from. And there are some things at my beloved university that have to be dealt with, right? Kids need to graduate in 4 and a half years. They can't be in school 6 and 7 years on their first degree because they've been partying the whole time, right? Kids need to graduate without being drowning in debt, spending their career paying off debt 20 and 30 years. That's the reality of it all. Ladies and gentlemen, when a parent drops his or her child off at FAMU, dropping that child off to get an education and be able to graduate with a degree within a timely fashion to be able to go and be launched into their lives. I respect every president that we've had, from Dr. Humphreys to the current. I respect all of them for their contribution, both permanent and interim president. I thank Dr. Beard for stepping in. He had just retired from Pasco Hernando State College. He didn't have to do this, but he loves FAMU. And he's chosen to delay his deserved retirement for a year because he loves FAMU. He's a graduate. His wife's a graduate. His daughters are a graduate, right? Something about when you love FAMU, you allow yourself to make sacrifices for your beloved university. He's doing that, and I commend him for it. From the beginning of this presidential search, we all knew, at least I knew, it was going to be contentious. And not because I thought Marvin Johnson was going to be a candidate, it's because we continue to be beholden to the old legacy of FAMU. But let me say, you using it from a church standpoint, you can honor the history and not be held captive to it. Dr. Humphreys was amazing. And all of us who are Humphreys graduates, we honor that. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? My son, who is now about to be a sophomore at FAMU, doesn't know Dr. Humphreys. He wasn't alive when Humphreys was president. He wasn't alive when Humphreys retired, right? He doesn't know who he is. And in that regard, my son is not beholden to Humphreys' presidential legacy. That's the fact of the matter. There are kids today at FAMU. They don't know what Lee Hall is. They don't know who the current president is. They have no idea. Guess what? Nor do they care. Know why they don't care? Because they're not at school to get into the thing about who is the president of the university. They've come to get a degree in whatever area they want to get a degree in. That's why they're at FAMU. And yet, when I was at FAMU, you wanted to be on the set. You wanted to walk through the set. You wanted to enjoy that. When I was at FAMU, it was the height of the Jerry Springer show. So at 10 o'clock on any day on the set got empty for 1 hour while we went to various places to watch Jerry Springer. Then we all came back. The set was live on Fridays, right? Music blaring. You can smell the barbecue coming off the grill, but people having a great time. All the frats and sororities were in their posted up areas, or they were doing their steps and things of that nature. We were entering actually in the large and small conference, most small, large and small calf. All that FAMU was amazing. It was amazing. That's what I remember. That's not my son's FAMU. My son began at FAMU term B of last summer. My son in the fall of 2024 had 5 classes. 4 of his 5 were online classes. This past semester for the spring, my son had 5 classes. 4 of his 5 were online classes. My son's going to take 4 classes this summer, 1 in the full C, 2 in A, and 1 in B. And guess what? Of those 4 classes, only 1 of them will be in person, which makes 3 of them online. Why am I sharing that with you? Because we're in a different culture of higher academia. Online is now a way you can get your degree, or most of your classes will be online, and you're still a FAMU student, and yet you don't get the same enjoyment of being able to walk to and fro campus. Most of my classes were in Tucker Hall, right? And so I saw a lot of the same people every single day. I used to walk across the quad, walking past Coleman, right, past the Eternal Flame to get to the set, right? I was a part of all that. It was loud, high-fiving friends, talking to females along the way, right? All of that. That was FAMU 96 to 2000. That's not FAMU in 2025, right? The Orange Room is now a classroom building. The eatery where my son ate when he stayed in the Villages his freshman year is not on main campus, right? It's near the dorm. What am I saying to you all? My son has no reason to actually go inside the campus, save 1 class he had in the fall. So my point is, this generation of FAMU students will never be able to emulate what we had in the previous years because campus life is different. Go a little bit further. Higher academia is also different, ladies and gentlemen. No longer is a demand or a requirement that your president has to be an academic brain. While that may be commended, it's not a necessity. You know why? Because the pressure for academia is really on your provost, not on your president. I go back to the John Thrasher analogy, right? John Thrasher was not an academic. Yeah, he had a degree from FSU. He's not an academic. But guess what? They succeeded under that. There are other universities and state colleges where their president is not an academic. But what you do is you afford them the chance to put together their leadership team, and they put together a team where they have academics involved. What your president needs to be in 2025 is someone who has business acumen and have operational skill set. And ladies and gentlemen, like it or not, Mrs. Marva Johnson has both. Corporate America is critical to the donor contributions of higher academic, like it or not, right? No matter what you look like, no matter what it feels like, no alum is giving enough money to operate the fullness of any state college or state university. It's not happening. You can have multi-billion-dollar graduates. They're not giving enough money to be able to undergird the expenses of a university. They're not doing it. They're absolutely not doing it. While we may appreciate all of those contributions, and I give to FAMU, I don't give enough to FAMU to be able to do that, right? Right now, FAMU is a state appropriation dependent state university system. That's the fact of the matter. You know why? Because philanthropic donations are not coming in as they used to. I was at FAMU at the height of SBI, Dr. Mobley being the dean of SBI. I remember watching some of my classmates who were SBI majors in their suits or in their dresses walking across the quad, going to Lee Hall for what they call forum. I watched that. One of my dearest friends is a FAMU business graduate, but he was a 4-year, not a 5-year. And he would tell stories how there was a different treatment you received when you were not a part of the MBA program. But it was a pride. You had Fortune 50 and Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies who were knocking down the door to be able to offer internship to SBI students, knocking down the door to be able to contribute to FAMU in high dollar amounts. Those days are gone, right? We're not attracting those companies at the same level as we did before. You have to ask yourself why. It's because FAMU's not the same university. Is it that FAMU has issues? What is the reason why we're not seeing the same level of interest, ladies and gentlemen? And some of that has to do with several things. Kids graduating. Are these kids actually being prepared for the workforce? Are we teaching them books? Or are we teaching them for an opportunity to be able to go and be successful? What does that look like, right? Are we actually speaking the same vernacular as they speak in corporate America, right? We're not seeing businesses running down schools anymore that want to now sit in front of your student and come to Career Expo like they did in large numbers. Now you have to be able to go out there and create that conversation. What is the FAMU elevator speech? Why would a company want to invest in FAMU? What is the ROI for a FAMU investment? Right? That's beyond emotionalism. Let me give you a true story. True story. The Lord blessed our church to buy. We own our building and we own the land that we occupy. God has been faithfully kind to us. But when we were going through the process to acquire all of that, right, we put together more than 3 years of our financial history as we were engaging conversation with the bank, right? And the bank that we were conversing with, right, and I give credit to TC Federal, who we actually utilized, right? The statement was said to us during the end of our proposal with them. They said, "We commend you. We commend your church for having your financials in order." And the words were said like this. We deal with a lot of churches, and churches, typically black churches, operate from the mindset of faith and not finances. Banks are discontinuing giving monies to churches just because you are a Christian church. They want to know, what do your financials look like? What are you bringing in? What are you taking out, right? That's important. And you come to the realization that when we talk about business, it is beyond the emotionalism. It is beyond the assumed entitlement. You now have to be bringing something to the table that's going to generate the interest in that regard. I'm not upset about Marva Johnson being president. Truth be told, I'm very hopeful. I'm very excited, and I desire to see her succeed because her success is our success. I'm tired of us being written about in the negative, ladies and gentlemen. That bogus check, that fraud check, that whole ordeal put us on international newsways. We were the laughing stock of not just HBCUs, of universities and colleges across this country. People were asking, how did that happen? You did a Google search for a check. People I hadn't talked to in years seem to have found my number to reach out with mockery, right? Wondering, brother, did you look how the check looked? It looked like a kitty check. All these jokes being told. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to ask ourselves a tough question. How did it happen? what took place. Because usually what happens is we become very protective and defensive versus being transparent and being open. And the board of governors, like them or not, they have a responsibility, ladies and gentlemen. Responsibility is to make sure that every state university system amongst the SUS is complying with state law. But also, we're under performance funding now, right? There are expectations. We used to be in the top tier in competitiveness. Now we're scraping. We're scraping because at some point we believe, because we are the only public SUS, right, that we are entitled to things. It does not work that way. It does not work that way. At the end of the day, you got to be graduating students. At the end of the day, you got to be doing enough research. At the end of the day, you got to be able to be having enough PhDs and things of that nature. You have to do those things. It is possible. And if we don't like it, here's a proposal. Go private sector. Be like Bethune-Cookman. Be like Edward Waters. Be like Florida Memorial. Go private. And then ask them how much of a struggle it could be every year having to go after money when you are private. We are public. And because we are public, we have to compete and comply with what's out there. Plain and simple. There have been arguments about how much Marvin Johnson should get paid. Do you actually do a research of the other SUS presidents, ladies and gentlemen? These people are making some short of, some surpassing $1 million base salary. And so don't tell me that, fam, you can't afford it. I believe this as a guy who operates in dollars and cents. I believe this. If you actually do a thorough third party audit, the monies will be exposed and produced, because maybe the monies are there, they're just misappropriated. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but what I am saying is that you can't continue to nickel and dime your leaders and then expect them to be able to deliver at high level. I feel the same thing about faculty, right? You can't keep nickel and diming the faculty and then wanting them to be able to produce at high level. I commend Dr. Brown, who's on the board of trustees, for saying what he said yesterday in his comment. The entirety of this past week's interviews, he was consistently advocating for faculty. You could get mad about who he voted for at the end of the day, but he was consistent and unapologetic about who he voted for and why he voted for that person, but also who he's arguing for, which was faculty. He was the only one that I would actually say that actually was unapologetically advocating for FAMU DRS. Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, at some point throughout the years, FAMU DRS became a sore thumb to the university. It used to be on the campus, right? Now it's down Wanish Way. They've struggled for years, and yet we only bring them in when they're succeeding in certain areas. They are a part of the university. Our number one feeding school is not Florida High. It's not Rickards. It's not Gabi. It's not Leon. It's not Childs. It's not Lincoln. It's FAMU DRS. It's FAMU DRS. From kindergarten to 12th grade, these children are getting an education at FAMU Developmental Research School. It should be a no-brainer that these kids want to continue their education on the highest of seven hills. It's a short walk up the hill. It should be no problem for us all. And yet, we're not seeing that because during their course of education, what is the overall university and us as alums doing to fortify that school? I appreciate everybody saying what they want to say. You have every right to. But I also want to point out a frustration that I did have this week. So I went on Wednesday. I sat in the back row to listen to Ms. Marva's presentation and the Q&A she had with the board. There were some questions that I wish she would have spent more time thoroughly fleshing out. I will be a part of that. But I didn't leave there feeling worried that if she got it, we were going to be in a bad spot. But here's what did frustrate me. The same time as she was up being interviewed by the board of trustees from 9 to 10:30 a.m. in Grand Ballroom, there was a rally going on up at the Will Packard Amphitheater. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you have the right to protest. But think about this for a second. Wouldn't it have been wiser to actually have come into the interview, which is open to the public, hear what she was saying, how she was answering questions, and if you're going to rally, you rally based off what she said that you didn't like versus what somebody's telling you she's saying and what she stands for. I actually heard what she said, and she didn't say anything in that room that made me walk out of there overwhelmingly worried about my child's education or my beloved FAMU. Not one thing did she say. And so I'm not worried about it like that. I'm not at all. I actually believe, because of her relationship with the governor, actually could bode well for FAMU. I actually believe that if FAMU, as I know FAMU, will come and undergird her and support her to be successful, will actually reap the benefits of that said relationship. She's going to need FAMU to help her be successful. That's the alums, that's the boosters, that's the student body. She's going to need all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, she's going to need it. I was working for Governor Scott when President Elmira Mangum became president. I was very hopeful. I spent one-on-one time with Dr. Mangum. She shared her vision, a vision to be able to generate more business interest, be able to partner with some of the local groups like the Florida Chamber of Commerce, Associated Industries of Florida, right? You understand that FAMU is probably the third largest economic generator of revenue in the city of Tallahassee? Yes, yes. You know how much money homecoming by itself brings to this city? Yes. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not just the other university. We are a major financial generator of economics in this city. We matter to this city. We matter to this city. We matter to this city. I've never subscribed to the idea that officials gonna take over FAMU. I ain't gonna, we ain't gonna see it happen. Not in my lifetime. We ain't gonna see it happening. There were a lot of things being said. A lot of things being said. But here is the fact of the matter. Yesterday, on a vote of 8-4, the Board of Trustees, with a majority vote, voted to make Marva Johnson the next president of FAMU. And as a FAMU graduate, as a contributor to FAMU, as a parent of a FAMU student, as a lover of FAMU, I'm going to do everything I can to see her be successful because she's going to have her name associated with FAMU. And if we rescind from helping out FAMU because we are mad at her, we affect FAMU more than we affect her. Her relationships in corporate America can benefit us, and it will benefit us. I believe that. But the president does not have to be an academic. Need that person to be business acumen focused, that person to have some operational skills in that regard. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to stay accredited. It matters. It absolutely matters. And so, for all the people out there who have a lot of strong opinions, right? Listeners now, y'all try to convince me in 2016 that when President Trump became president, it was the end for black people. 4 years later, blacks were still around. You try to convince me that when he won the presidency recently, it was going to be the demise of us. You try to convince me that in 2018, when Ron DeSantis became governor, it's going to be the end for black people. And guess what? Still we rise. So at some point, we can't operate as fear being the leader of what we do. And I understand that what I'm saying is unpopular. People won't be upset. Maybe it's my Los Angeles where I just really don't care about people's opinions like that, right? And I don't operate in fear of no man. And so I said this to somebody this week. I'll say it to you all. One of the great spots to be in is when you can be in rooms and be indebted to nobody. Nobody pays me to speak for them, right? In regards to this, nobody has called me and said, do this. I'm doing this because I'm a man enough to do it. I've gotten a lot of text from people who are FAMU graduates, some who are not FAMU graduates, from black people, from white people wanting my perspective. And I've been giving it to them in text, right? But I also felt compelled because my son called me and said, Daddy, what is going on campus? Would let me know that my son at 19 is not, he's really unbothered by everything. It's been the chatter. He's unbothered by everything. He's unbothered by it all, right? When everything happened with athletics, right? Everybody kicking and screaming. And we're still here. And so, ladies and gentlemen, my charge to all of us is this. FAMU has withstood since October 3rd, 1887. We have been alive and been withstanding. Stop the fear mongering of trying to convince people that because now Mrs. Marva Johnson has been made president-elect, that we're not going to see the end of FAMU. It's not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. But at some point, we got to realize, as the only public HBCU in the SUS, we are not governed by being the only black HBCU. We're governed by the fact that we are part of a state university system, and the state law lays out requirements and expectations, plain and simple. And the rules can't be amended just to accommodate FAMU. We either got to rise to the standard, or we got to say, we're going to go private. And if we go private, FAMU got to be able to depend upon its alum to undergird that financial undertaking. And guess what? We're not given like that to do that. We can't continue to depend upon the state to fund everything that we do. And if we're going to do that, then we should not be shocked when the state starts intervening in FAMU business, because they have every right to do so. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not. I'm actually very excited. I'm very hopeful because I have had more concerns about my FAMU over the last year as whether or not can we withstand in the manner by which we are going. It's not a knock on any president. It really isn't. But some of you who are loud and are roared up, you don't even live in Tallahassee anymore, right? Some of you only come for homecoming. No shade, just the truth of the matter. So you're being told from somebody else what is going on. I live here. I'm around FAMU every day. FAMU gets my money because our son goes there, right? FAMU gets my money because I contribute from as alumni association. FAMU gets my money because I have season tickets, right? FAMU gets my money because I love FAMU. I'm here every single day. I work the halls of the Capitol. I have legislators who ask me about FAMU. There are people who desire to come to FAMU who don't look like me want to come to a FAMU game or a FAMU event. We're seeing a lot of non-blacks that go to FAMU because they want to go to FAMU. And the ladies and gentlemen, let's stop with the fear mongering. We are FAMU, man. We are FAMU. We always rise up. And Marva Johnson is our next president, like it or not. But I'm excited about it because change is not always easy, but change is necessary. And I want to implore every FAMU rattler, if you really say you love FAMU, discontinue threatening to withhold your finances. We need the monies. The university needs the monies because we had to be able to do things on campus. Housing is still in the dire need on campus, right? These things are necessary. They're necessary. And so I'm done with my rant, but I'm going to say this to you all. I'm going to avail myself to Mrs. Johnson to be helpful because I love FAMU. And I have no association with her. She doesn't owe me anything. I'm not trying to meet with her to become a lobbyist at the university. I have no ask at FAMU for anything like that. God has been good to my business, right? God's been good to me, to our church. God's been good to me as a person. So I'm not trying to maneuver in to become somebody's friend. Hopefully I can get next to her. None of that's what I'm being asked for. This video's not even being done that she sees it. I'm talking to the FAMU community, man. FAMU community. That we got to stop with the assumptions that one person becoming president ultimately means that now FAMU as we know it is no more. It's not true. It's not true. It's absolutely not true. Do your research. Do your research. Marva Johnson's hiring does not mean that there won't be respect for Dr. Humphrey. And I get it that we all want to honor President Humphrey's legacy. I get it. Absolutely get it. But President Humphrey's way of leading up to 2001, 24 years later, that's not how universities are governed anymore. That's just the truth of the matter. Like it or not, that's how you're not running like that anymore. But also, this current generation of college students on FAMU's campus, most of them don't even know who Dr. Humphreys is. They don't know who Dr. Ammons is. They don't know these people. They know FAMU right now. This is their FAMU as they know it. They're trying to build their own legacy as they know FAMU. And I am committed to seeing them be successful. That's how I feel about it. I have no opinions about the board of trustees, have no opinions about anything else, but I love FAMU too much to let our new president fail because we want to see her fall. Because if she fails and if she falls, FAMU gets the black eye and we stay in the press for all the wrong reasons. How about this? How about we commit to undergirding FAMU? How about we commit to helping educate Ms. Marva Johnson on FAMU's history and FAMU's culture? How about we commit to helping her be successful? How about we commit to giving her what she needs to attract those Fortune 50, 100, and 500 companies? How about we commit to encouraging our younger generation to keep their eyes and their focus on FAMU? I don't see FAMU's enrollment declining because she's a new president. I think if anything, what hurts it is all the negative rhetoric out there. Our post on social media, our in the general, is what's going to actually affect things, not her being the president. Because most of these kids will never even interact with her in their 4-year journey on a FAMU campus. They may see her once or twice at best. They will interact with their faculty. Faculty needs to be taken care of, properly compensated, and undergirded. Ladies and gentlemen, you gotta graduate students. You have to hit the performance requirements that the Board of Governors put in place. You have to. And you can't assume because we're the public HBCU alone that we deserve a different scoring sheet. It doesn't work that way. If this is the bar, I believe as a FAMU proud graduate, we will meet and exceed this bar. Don't change the bar, just raise our internal standard. We're FAMU. We strike and we strike and we strike again. Let's go win this thing. Bless you all. Have an amazing day. Hope this just helps out somebody. And if it doesn't, I ain't mad at nobody. I just love FAMU, man. How about y'all? Let's go make it happen.